Hello, boys and girls. It's time for a story. So I chose a book that I've already read to you because it's kind of nice to go back and reread books. This one is Verdi, and it's by Janelle Cannon. Verdi. Now, when I wrote the music to this, I wanted the music to match the book. So can you tell if the music matches? If the book gets exciting, the music should too. If the book gets boring, the music should get that way too. So let's see if the music matches the book, okay? Let's get started. On a small tropical island, the sun rose high above the steamy jungle. A mother python was sending her hatchlings out into the forest the way all mother pythons do. Grow up big and green as the tree's leaves, she called to her little yellow babies. But Verdi dawdled. He was proudly eyeing his bright yellow skin. He especially liked the bold stripes that zigzagged down his back. Why in a hurry to grow up and be big and green, he wondered. Maybe some of the older snakes in the jungle could tell him. Verdi ventured into the treetops to look for them. Umbles, Aggie, and Ribbon were lazing on some branches nearby. Verdi peered at their droopy green bodies. It's not polite to stare, chided Aggie. Umbles burped, and groaned. It's taken nearly 4 weeks for that last lizard to digest. I surely do like lizards, but lizards don't like me. Why don't lizards like you? Said Verdi, why don't they like you? Don't interrupt, Umbles grumbled. Dear me, whined Aggie. If I don't shed soon, this itchy skin is gonna drive me bananas. Verdi tapped a tune with his tail and he waited to speak. Stop that. Makes me nervous, Ribbon complained. Besides, you'll never grow up to be properly green, always interrupting and fidgeting. Verdi couldn't imagine being in such a hurry to be like them. And he really wanted to keep his sporty stripes. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. Here's Verdi slipping. Hear the music? Dozer was snoring in a tree not far from the others. Hello, said Verdi. Do you want to climb trees with me? I'm tired, Dozer growled. Go and do a few laps around the jungle, okay? Verdi's heart sank. Greens were not only lazy and boring, they were rude. At the top of a very tall tree, Verdi gripped one branch with his tail and another with his snake jaws. I will never be lazy, boring, or green, he thought. I will jump and climb and keep moving so fast that I'll stay yellow and striped forever. Then Verdi let go. From a distance, the greens watched. Oh my, they chorused. Ribbon shook his head. At this rate, he'll never be lucky enough to have his first molt. Aggie nodded. He's likely to put out an eye on a branch. Umbles moaned. He may never live to turn green. But one day, Verdi's skin began to peel, and he saw a pale green stripe stretching along his whole body. He gasped, how could this be? I'm the speediest snake in the jungle, and I'm still turning green? He raced down to the river, grabbing a mouthful of leaves. Verdi flung himself into the water. If I can't run this green off, I'll scrub it off, he thought. His frantic splashing caught the eye of a large bottom-feeding fish cruising the bottom. Yum, said the old fish. Lunch. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Oh, pooh! With a blast of his rubbery lips, the great fish sneezed, sending Verity into the air. Slapping onto the soggy shore, Verity skidded out of reach. Whew, that was close, he sputtered. Every inch of his body was covered with wet, gloppy mud. Kind of lumpy, kind of brown. It sure beats being green. He left the mud on. But the soft brown mud dried into a hard gray shell, and Verity could barely move. If he even budged, the stuff cracked off in jagged chunks. As each piece fell away, Verity could see that his body was even more green than before. This is terrible, he cried. He pictured himself hanging around in droopy loops, itching and complaining and worrying all day about the old green stories. He looked up into the sky where the sun blazed beautiful yellow, just the color he used to be. Then he pulled the vine to the top of a very tall tree. Uh-oh, another tall tree? That doesn't sound good. Launching himself from the treetop, Verity startled a flock of colorful birds. He became dizzy with delight, sure that the bright sun and his lofty speed would turn him golden again. In his joy, Verity forgot that he had to fall back down to earth. Wham! Plummeting through the trees, Verity landed in a crooked sprawl across the log on the forest floor. He couldn't move. Help! Help! He cried. As usual, the Greens were watching Verity's antics. They moved quickly to where he lay. Didn't we say it would come to this? Umbles said, shaking his head. Aggie sighed. Luckily, he still has two good eyes. They gently lifted Verity up to a safe place where they could watch over him while he healed. Boy, that's nice. They're good snakes. I thought they were boring, but they're actually good. Neatly splintered to a branch, Verity had no choice. He was tied to a branch. He had to listen. Remember how I used to streak across the forest floor? Ribbon asked. Quick as lightning, said Aggie. And I climbed giant trees like they were nothing. They grew bigger back then. The things I dared to run down and swallow, Umbles bragged. Wild boar was not too much for me. Verity was so surprised. You used to run, you used to climb, you used to eat giant pigs? What happened? Ribbon crashed just like you, Aggie replied. I took a terrible fall and almost put out an eye. Then Umbles here nearly choked to death. Now we prefer the quiet life. The Greens rambled on about the days of glory, and Verity settled down on the branch to listen. Finally, one afternoon, Umbles said, looks like you're ready to go again. He carefully untied Verity from the branch. You're welcome to come with us, said Aggie. Ribbon agreed. The three snakes slipped quietly into the forest. Verity wasn't ready to join them. He wasn't sure what he was wanted to do. So he just stretched out and stayed put where he was. He listened to the forest come alive. Isn't this a pretty picture? The jungle, rainforests. Time passed, the sun and the moon took turns in the sky. Verity marveled as the full moon grew thinner every night. Then he watched patiently as it slowly grew round again. He wondered why he hadn't noticed it before. Verity became so green that he blended perfectly with the leaves. He was so still that other animals walked right by without seeing him at all. Can you see him? One fine morning, Verity basked in the sun. Two small yellow snakes approached. They tapped and fidgeted as they stared. Get a load of that old green guy, one of them whispered. Do you think he ever moves? The other snickered. I feel seriously doubt it. They're just like I used to be, thought Verdi, and I'm now what I was afraid to be. He looked at his big green body and slowly smiled. How would you like to climb trees with me, he asked. With you? The yellows were so surprised. I'll even show you my fancy figure eight, Verdi replied, though he was a little bit afraid of putting out an eye. With practice, the three snakes performed a perfect triple figure eight. Leaping and looping with his little striped friends, Verdi laughed. I may be big, and I may be very green, but I'm still me. I like that book. Now, why do you think I like that book? If you have any comments about this book, please email me, okay? Or write on Seesaw. Thank you.